Welcome to another episode of Minx Labrada's Mysterious World. As always, I'll be your host, Minx Labrada. And what we do here is explore our mysterious world with Minx Labrada. Of course, that's me, as explained. And we're going to get into a UFO sighting that I interacted with a guy who ended up sending me the video, a guy on the X. And it's pretty fascinating how quickly you can build a community of support just by having a little show like this. It's only my 5th podcast ever, and I've already got people sending me videos. I really like that. I really appreciate it. And after we analyze it, I'm going to show you the National UFO Reporting Center. So a UFO sighting is not exactly something you only should upload to TikTok or Twitter or whatever. There, I said it again. I meant X. But how many of y'all are having a problem with that when you actually like that it's called X? X sounds cool, and X represents rebellion against censorship. When Twitter was, it just sounds all mamsy-pamsy. It sounds like something that would censor you. Twitter, it just, I never really liked that word. And I like the blue bird, but I don't know. Whatever. There's a blue jay in my backyard this morning. Maybe that's what I mean. Anyway, I'm going to go over the National UFO Reporting Center with you and how you should go about reporting a UFO and show you all the sites, features, and benefits. And then I'll expound upon it and discuss one of my sightings. I kind of stopped counting at 18. And part of the reason for this podcast is to document all the UFO sightings I've had. So making a segment where I'm adding those to the mix as part of the podcast, I think is not only important for the entire UFO community, but also for me as a human being, because let's face it, the more you don't talk about it, if you see something that strange and that amazing, the more it just eats at you. You can't not talk about it. Okay? So, and I do think that, thankfully, even though I'm not on board with David Grush and some of these other people with how they're, or what they're disclosing, and I guess how, the fact that that is out there has basically made it more acceptable just to discuss it. And if even anybody will pay attention to you anymore, I was still blown away. Still blown away. People were home, locked down, and people were just so depressed or just so embroiled in, I guess, politics or the lockdown itself and COVID and the fear and all this, that all this disclosure stuff came out and So it's literally going to take, at this point, the fabled UFO landing on the White House front lawn type thing. Granted, if they are monitoring our communications, which you got to think they got full spectrum awareness of what's going on. And when I say they, I don't necessarily mean aliens. Could be intra-dimensional, could be a breakaway civilization here on Earth that is so advanced we've not yet detected them. Could be actual animals. There's an entire study focusing on maybe UFOs are biological entities. And I'll share some of that, of what I saw later on in the series. Maybe not tonight, but there's a lot to cover. So when I say they, I'm going very broad spectrum they. I don't mean the proverbial they, as in they or what, they made short skirter this year, that kind of thing. They made skirts longer this year. I don't mean that they, the elite cabal. I mean the they in terms of whoever the pilots are of these craft, or perhaps the craft itself is an actual creature and there is no pilot. And we just haven't figured out how to classify that yet as a form of life. You know, even the things that look chrome and metallic still don't scare me off as perhaps maybe being biological, because I don't know if you've seen some kind of super shiny beetles that look like they're made out of metal. Rainbow kind of oil spill type metal, just super shiny. So if that's possible in the insect world, why wouldn't that be possible on some kind of form of life that we don't know? Maybe they're able to, I don't know. Who knows? Or, of course, it could be a machine. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this, and I will show you this sighting. Now, this one I edited. I zoomed in and I broke it up because the camera was shaking around, and I did my best to keep the subject matter in frame. But let's go here and let's show you let's show you the original first. So you have that to go on.
Look at that. Look at that shit, dog. Sabrina, hurry.
On list. Okay. Go ahead and put on my headphones so I can listen along with you.
Holy shit, dog. It's a fucking meteor. It's a fucking meteor, dog. Holy shit, where'd it go?
Look at that.
Oh my god.
You just gave me a heart
Oh
attack,
my
dude.
god, that was fucking sick. Dog, that's aliens. That's alien.
What the fuck is that?
That's
aliens
funny how
coming to the fucking...
calls his friend dog.
What?
Now that right there, I've seen before. Not specifically that formation, but amber lights in the sky. That's a Pensacola Beach classic right there. Give you another reason to vacation on our beautiful white sand beaches. You might see a UFO. And
Tyler, what the fuck
interacting
is
with the
that?
guy,
What the fuck
I'm not
is
100%
going
sure now.
They're
This is
going
his
sideways.
They're going sideways.
Video.
They ain't even following no more.
He's
Hey,
called
look at this
Lone
green
Star
dot on my camera,
Hombre.
Tyler. Look at the green dot.
What the fuck?
Look at the green dot.
I see it.
Tyler, what the fuck is going on? They're
Well,
standing there.
I don't know, but the green
Look,
dot
they're
just
red,
seems
they're
like an
red, they're red,
artifact
they're
or a
red.
laser or something.
red.
What the
But-
fuck, dude?
I got that
Those
shit on
ain't
video.
meteors, bro. Look,
No,
that
no.
one's flying sideways.
And this is where it gets a little weird
Holy
again. They
shit.
stopped and then they
Holy shit.
start moving around
Holy
again.
shit. Tyler.
That right there that's almost like exactly what I've seen when I lived in Gulf Breeze a couple times. We'll get into it. So like I said, this is very therapeutic for me. For years, I just shut my mouth and didn't tell anybody, only talked to maybe chatted with some people online, but like people like not near me, Mexico City, stuff like that. Anyway, let's go. And they're leaving some kind of a trail.
Holy shit. What is going on right now?
What the
Oh my
fuck?
god. Oh my god.
Yeah, I didn't censor it if you're
Oh my god.
sensitive ears.
They're zigzagging.
Yeah,
across
dude,
the
what the
sky.
fuck is going on right now? That is a meteor. Sabrina, get your ass over here.
That ain't
That
no
is a
meteor.
fucking...
No, they're not meteors, buddy.
Get up
Hey,
here.
get over here.
Get in your
Oh
yard.
my god. Where'd they go? Oh my god.
It was like a
Oh my
curtain.
god.
It was like a curtain at first.
Yeah, there were some amber lights one evening out at Gulf Breeze, and I had my camera, but I was so kind of blown away by these things there, and they were leaving a little trail, and they were illuminated little sprites. That's kind of what we call them around here when you see just a small thing and it doesn't really appear to be anything solid, just a light. and these were leaving trails, and they were like rose-colored lights, and they seemed to kind of be interacting and playing with each other. Have no idea. And I'll never forget, there were two attractive women, and I wasn't eavesdropping, but you pick stuff up, and they were talking about, they're having relationship issues. Everybody knows being an attractive female, especially on Pensacola Beach, it's probably going to bring you as much problems as it does joy. But they were like, yeah, we know. When I was like, wow, y'all seeing this? They're like, oh yeah, we know. We see them all the time. Totally jaded to the whole thing. So, and there's very well respected people in Pensacola that I won't name. Well, one of them's dead, but I'm still not going to name him. But I knew him as a guy I knew's father, and they have VCR and like Super 8 video of exactly this from before everything went digital, from the late 80s, early 90s, even on into the 90s before the SD card really hit big. But I still don't know, but the way they move and the way they act, I keep going back to biological, something maybe that's been on this earth a long time and we don't recognize it as life and don't really know what it is. Doesn't necessarily mean extraterrestrial. And I will say that point of view got me uninvited to the 20th anniversary of the Gulf Breeze UFO sighting. And I had done my documentary film at Full Sail University on a little mini doc about UFOs in Pensacola. And in the little documentary, I'll play it for you sometime. I'll edit it into the podcast one day and we'll put it at the end. But MUFON didn't like that. The guy that invited me was a MUFON investigator, and I had explained he had investigated one of my sightings, and they confirmed it a true unknown. And we can get into that one someday too. But they didn't like that I was not going with the whole alien explanation as just a given. And you hear how conditioned people are right in the beginning of this. That guy's, oh, those are aliens. Really? We don't really know. Not saying there's no such thing as explorers from another planet that maybe have come here. Why not? We had our exploring phase here on Earth. Do you think maybe the first time Native Americans saw a 3-masted sailing vessel, that if just one person saw it, do you think the other people believed them? Or I guess it had to have been the shaman that would see it. That was covered in some spiritual movie. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, kind of interesting. But how it took a few days for them to even recognize that was something people made. They just didn't even get it. What is that, right? So when you think of the disparities in potential technology, if this is a craft or even just something bizarre in terms of biologics, we might not even be. Likewise, how you wouldn't recognize something as technology, you may not recognize something as biologic if it's strange and different and weird enough. And it was Isaac Asimov that said any technology significantly advanced above the observer may seem like magic. So And it seems that the term aliens is a bit of a catch-all term now for magic. Again, not saying we don't have explorers or astronauts that came here, or maybe even colonies or conquerors. That's another maybe opinion that doesn't 100% jibe with the big MUFON crowd out there and the Discovery Channel UFO TV heads, that we may have been conquered centuries ago, and the world in the way it is right now is the plan. This is what they do. Keep people down. Eat the suffering. Electromagnetic beings, maybe creating suffering on Earth is food for some dark, lower entity beings. Speculation, don't know, can't prove it. Actually, though, there are a lot of ancient texts talking about the archons, and I forgot the other mythologies. I call them mythologies, but might not be. When you consider how we toil, not for ourselves, well, it is for ourselves. You do need to live here on Earth. And you do need to, you can't just be lazy and do nothing unless you're completely self-sufficiently rich. But everyone knows that's not a very satisfying or gratifying life. You have to get out and do things and accomplish goals to feel good. But when you see the mind control, which segues to another episode I did, it's a little hard to understand how it keeps continuing when everyone knows the classic phrase, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, if I was an alien that ate dark energy, I'd do exactly what we're doing to ourselves. Absolutely. So that's definitely a rolling hypothesis that the elites might, in fact, be either possessed by interdimensional beings, aka demons, or actually shape-shifting creatures themselves, or some such other variation in where what you see is not what you get. Hi, I'm George Bush, but don't look at me at dusk or I'll have lizard eyes or something. Okay, that's very David Icke. I highly recommend you catch up with his collected works and podcast for more information on that. Let's go ahead and finish this video.
Dude, that's motherfucking.
Look at that.
What the?
Yeah, it's definitely fascinating. And then pretty soon they start to die off here, getting towards the end of the video. There, making a little and that's exactly the way, you can't stop looking at them. The other thing that I noticed about these rose-colored lights and these amber lights. This is the zoomed in. And the guy that sent this to me told me he lives in Quitman, Texas. And this is why I think it might not be his original video, 3 minutes, Lubbock, Texas. But in his message, he said that he doesn't think it was in Lubbock. So I guess I'm kind of thinking it might not be his original video, which is fine because it is kind of new. But this is it zoomed in. And you could actually see that's more than one thing right there. They're all together. There it is. Now his camera was moving around a lot and I was able to get in there. Right there, it focuses. Do you see under all this, there is a some kind of object that does not look like the others, but it was part of it. You can kind of see it drop out right here. There, right there. Okay. And I'm almost kind of wondering if this is some kind of, if it is a biological, is this some kind of spawning event? Is this unknown entity sex in the sky? Or is this some form of high-tech skywriting just to get our attention as a form of building awareness? You know, breaking the Star Trek Prime Directive, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe there's an entire plan to slowly make us aware as our technology's reaching further and further out. And eventually they're saying, well, we're going to have to interact with these people. Maybe that's me saying that is them speaking about us. Okay. And then that white thing kind of disappeared. But then, honestly, my first thought when I saw that, I was like, oh no, that's a MIRV. Multi-intercontinental reentry vehicle. It was the biggest scare you ever wanted to hear about in the 80s. And, well, I guess now, since there's no way that's going to happen, I refuse to admit that the idiots in charge of the United States of America right now are capable enough to handle a nuclear war, or to move forward enough to make somebody else use nukes. I just don't believe it. I'm just way too positive about humanity and where we're going. And really, from my perspective, I feel that the good guys are winning in terms of signal. We might not have all the offices yet. And we might not have, who needs mainstream media, right? If you're here, you've given up on that years ago. And who's to say there is video of, or at least report of a guy, an Air Force guy, talking about a range camera picking up something that flew around a missile and shot beams at it, and then the missile tumbled. And his commanding officer showing him the film and saying, what the hell is this? The guy was like, I don't know. So if they could do that just to a test missile, I think I'm of the opinion, even if they are negative or positive influence on humanity, I'd say overall, stopping a nuke is pretty positive. So if they're farming people for negative energy or whatever, which is one of my hypotheses, not all of them. I'm not going to paint the entire thing. And I'm of the opinion that there's many different kinds of motivations and different kinds of aliens visiting Earth than that there are fish in the sea. It's just massive variety. So, and then some have even suggested there's actually a war going on Earth right now for us, where one group seeks to liberate, where the other wants to enslave, lock down, farm, potentially harvest mass quantities of adrenochrome. It's one of my big hypotheses. And we can get into that. But I do have a podcast about the connection between abductions and satanic ritual abuse, and how the satanic ritual abuse tends to mimic the abduction scenario. Yeah. And that's, you could see when it switches was a new shot I made. And in the video, he admits that that's some kind of green dot. Who knows what that's supposed to be? It's definitely not. It's an artifact, or it could be, I think it's a lens flare from this light. I think that's what that is. Yeah, that's just another, look at that. That's just another feature of whatever those are, is that the way they flicker and come out, they seem to shake, and then they're really bright, and then when they go away, it's almost like they fold in on themselves and go away. And it looks, the light itself, when you see them with your eye, has the same quality that lights underwater have. You see like an illuminated pool, or definitely down in Orlando around some of those hotels, they have multiple different colored lights that key and change around the waterfalls in front of these beautiful hotels. And it makes the water illuminate and glow in just a really special, beautiful way. That look is what, when you see one of these lights in the sky that might be a UFO, it has that underwater illuminated look. No other way to describe it. And I don't know, of course, I don't know why that would be, but it's because it's in the air. But lights in the air and then lights in the water have definitely a different quality, because in the water you're getting refraction. It's bending the, I don't know. Might have to talk to an optical physicist about that, an open-minded optical physicist. Man, you could see, and whatever these are, they're leaving a trail behind them as they move. I've seen both kinds. I've seen the kind that are just a ball when it moves, glowing ball, and I've seen the kind that leave trails. No idea, but it's interesting. Swarms of luminous insects is a hypothesis. Doubt it, but interesting. Yeah, and just right over whatever neighborhood that is. That's probably, oh, did you just see that jump? That's another, watch this. See that? That's another characteristic that I've seen and also has been explained to me. One of these over here goes away and pops up there, right there. And the way they come into being, if you didn't shake the camera, maybe you would see it a little better. The way it seems to vibrate a little bit, like it's, I don't know, what's it doing? Coming through a porthole? Or is it a different dimension and they're pressing into ours to check it out? Right there. Boom. Now watch it as it, let's go back again. Okay. 4 over here, and one of them goes away. That right there. Who knows? But you have to, and there another one just appeared. So you have to have some kind of 5-space technology or ability to be able to do that. And by 5-space, I mean the 3-space dimension that we have here, height, width, depth, okay, XYZ coordinates. 4th dimension on this planet in our world is time. Because even if you have the right coordinates, okay, this glass is at these coordinates, and if I want to drink, I have to put it here at the right, that's also a coordinate because I did it at that moment. But if you're somehow outside of time, think of a helicopter over a highway on a long straight road in Texas or wherever, Montana. And there's a car 5 miles ahead of you that you can't see, but the helicopter could see both. Okay, that's a metaphor for 5-space being outside of time. Saying, for instance, that road would be the timeline, and like literally this guy's 5 miles ahead of you. So that's however many minutes or seconds it takes to go that distance, he is ahead of you. Well, now if you're in the helicopter, you see both. So if there is a technology where they're slipping outside of whatever this is, I know that's a watch, but if you're not wondering about that, well, now you know. And there's a great book called, is it called The Fifth Dimension or The Fourth Dimension? It might be called The Fifth. When I find it, I'll show it to you and share, and maybe we could go through it a little bit. It's fascinating. Talks about flatland with the circle people and the triangle people and whatnot, and then how if you're 2D in flatland and our 3-dimensional type person, let's use this spent SD card container to represent flat land. Okay. Let's say that's you right there. You're this yellow square. You don't have a height dimension. You only have width and length, X and Y. You don't have Z. Z is the height or the depth. Okay, you have X and Y. You're just a little flat guy and you're friends with the little circle 7 guy here. You've probably never seen the 7 because you only see its edge, right? It's flat. And then all these other things, right? Now, if Mr. Hand here reaches into that 2 dimension, if I'm able to pass through it, you won't see the hand, but you'll see the circle shapes of my fingers as they intersect that plane. So with that in mind, when you look at something like this, in terms of 5-dimensional space, this might not be the whole thing. This might be just what's able to manifest in this 4-dimensional reality. It gets complicated. But which sounds fun. That sounds fun. Whatever that machine is, or maybe it's a level of awareness, like similar in Dune, the guild navigators that mutate themselves with the spice melange gas. They're vaping spice hardcore, right? No, I don't think they're using bongs, but here we go. They're doing this. Hey, you want to be a guild neighbor? Yeah, here. Take a bong, hit a spice. And then all the coughing and everything, and then you're a guild navigator. I can fold space. But that concept, folding space, I think is about right, especially when you think about the E equals MC squared. And if you did go light speed, you might become energy. Then again, maybe that's the key. Maybe if you go light speed and become energy, you're able to transmute back into matter. You like just get it. Maybe that's what teleportation is all about, accelerating those molecules to light speed and sending a beam of light up to a spaceship and then reassembling as a dude. Or female, doesn't matter. Chick. So let's go ahead and finish this. We're never going to get through it if I just keep interrupting and talking. But that's what we do. It's a podcast. Speculation. Here we go. Last ones. And they're gone. All right, it's repeating now. So this is where the guy lives, Quitman, Texas. And it looks like a really lovely little town. It's got a really nice lake by it, Lake Fork. And, you know, they're far enough away from Dallas to live peacefully, I'm assuming. And, you know, Tyler's not exactly the smallest town in the world. They're a little north of Tyler. And, you know, Quitman. Yeah, why not? So we're going to get in touch with this guy again. And if he is the guy that took the video, I'll interview him. And we'll talk about it. We'll see what happens. See what he thinks about it. If not, if you are the original person that took that video, you can reach out at Minx Labrada, MINX LABRADA at startmail.com. That'd be the encrypted email. Start Mail. I know there's others. I just happen to like Start Mail. That's the one I'm using. So that's maybe where this video was taken, but it did say Lubbock too. So I may have just misunderstood what the guy was sending me. Perhaps he just decided to send me somebody else's UFO video, which is fine. Now, if you have been paying attention, this is why I think it would be really interesting if he was the guy that took it. Here's the path of the eclipse is going to go right over Quitman, because there's Tyler right there. And he's north, so he's going to be a little bit closer to the epicenter of... In fact, let's try that again. Let's see if that's Tyler. Oh, okay. So that would be that lake. So just north of that lake is exactly where it's going over. But still, you're going to be in the shadow here. And the reason I find that interesting is every time something radical goes down in the world, like a major earthquake or something, not every time, but often, there have been these sightings of these massive formations of generally kind of white dot UFOs, maybe these in the daytime. Excuse me. There's a famous sighting over Mexico City, and a few days later they had like a 7.3 earthquake or something like that. So the fact that the guy that just sent me a UFO video is in the path of the eclipse, I find significant. Granted, if it was Lubbock, Lubbock's not in it. And I've been to Lubbock. I worked a streaming video gig for a sports company. And Lubbock is very interesting. And there's a phenomenon there called Hell's Gate. And I can tell you that whole story. We can get into that one day. But if you are in Lubbock, I would recommend not riding a bicycle there. They don't care about you on your bike in Lubbock. So, and I ended up fixing some guy's brakes. I saw him almost bust his butt. It was a student. And I was like, how come you don't know how to fix your brakes? And he goes, I don't know. I don't have time. I was like, you're a student. That's all you have is time. And I just happened to have my toolkit with me. And I was on I always have my toolkit with me. And I was on my bike. And while he was eating, I just fixed it for him so he didn't die. Crazy kids today, you know? So let's go ahead and talk about what you should do. What do you do if you see a UFO? Well, one of them is, take out your phone. I prefer landscape mode because look, if you take landscape, I'm sorry that sounded so condescending, but I'm just sick of the postcard shape, or what would you call that? Portrait shaped video, because it's never getting what you want in frame big enough. And if you go that way and when you blow it up, it's the right aspect ratio. 16:9 is cinema. I'm not 100% sure. I think these are 16:9, and it's all 16:9. There's a different aspect ratio that's when you go to the movies and they pull the curtains out even more for the 70mm Quentin Tarantino film. That's a different aspect ratio. I'm not exactly sure what that's called. CinemaScope is basically what they call it. But, ooh, what was that? Something's on my roof. So here's what you do. You take video with this aspect ratio, 16:9, landscape, not portrait, landscape, please. I've even heard newscasters say, weather guy that used to work in Mobile said, hey, look, folks, we really appreciate the video. Please send us landscape so we can get all the detail. Because when you do portrait mode and when you zoom in, you're losing detail to zoom in to make it, because you're here, right? And if you want to make that video 16:9, you have to do it to here and zoom in like I did, and then edit around it and whatnot. If the guy had just shot the video like that, I wouldn't have had to do that. So you're going to go to the National UFO Reporting Center. That would be NUFORC.org, or if you prefer, NUFORC. Why not? I don't think the owner of this site, Peter Davenport, would call it NUFORC, but there you go. Now, when I had a sighting in, where was it? Oh, I'm going to have to double check to remember which one I reported. I ended up reporting one that I saw years ago, like later. And as discussed, it took me a while to talk about it. So this is what you do. You go to the National UFO Reporting Center. It's a really cool looking site. Here we go. 170,000 plus sightings. So you're not alone. Don't try to feel weird. 50 years in operation. And then this is kind of a cool new feature. I haven't been to the site in a long time. He has recent activity and highlights. So little stories, little blurbs about the whole scene. That's cool. And if you're going to file one, easy peasy, there's just a button right there. Now, before, I really like this because the guy does not want to have his time wasted. And poor guy has had, some jackasses call him, harassing him, leaving really awful messages and, every, nasty word in the book and just really, threats even. And I do believe this is from the old guard. There may have been a couple people just wound up on their own, but it sounds more like a carried out disinformation campaign type of thing to harass the guy running a place where you could report a UFO, get him to quit, right? But he's a veteran. So, and just because I'm a Marine and he's an airman, that doesn't mean anything. I'm telling you, if you served, you understand suffering probably better than anybody that didn't serve. So that wherewithal that you build in the military, I think is going to carry you really far. Not saying they're the only people that have the wherewithal. I'm just saying it's a good group of people to work with. Let's put it that way. So Peter Davenport has been slick enough here to make sure you don't report something that, well, isn't a UFO. So he's got Starlink satellites with an image. He's got rocket launches with images. And I have to say, the spiral thing, I'm still not buying that Oslo spiral was a rocket. Maybe it was. It's just so weird. Maybe it was just the first time I've seen that and it's just a normal thing now. Anyway, I'm over it. Maybe you saw Venus or Jupiter. Objects in photos or videos not seen in the naked eye. So they're just going to cover these different things. Pulsating lights in videos. Hoax and joke reports will be ignored. Yeah, I mean, of course, don't muddy the pool. And then here you go. After you get through all that, you can file a report or you can just call 206-722-3000 and leave your report. So let's go ahead and click on the file a report and show you what happens. And you have your sighting, date, and time here. Of course, I'm not going to do this now. Just going to kind of show you what they have. Actually, I could probably sit here all day and just document all the different ones as they came back to me. Might have a tough time remembering the date on all of them, but I do my research on that, and I'll cross-reference other things that maybe were happening at the time. Like, maybe when, the Fonz was real big on Happy Days. Oh, when was that? Oh, in, 77 or 78. And it allows me to use that as an estimated time of when, maybe I saw a UFO when the Fonz was a big star and I was a kid, that kind of thing. Or Henry Winkler was playing the Fonz and was a big deal. If you weren't a kid or an adult then, you don't know what I'm talking about, and that's all right. But the Fonz was a character in a sitcom that was so cool that he could bang a jukebox and it would work. And he could just fix things, and he was just cool. But they did it in a way where he's so cool, it was kind of funny. He got a lot of laughs. And he's a really fun and interesting actor. I believe he's a producer now, Henry Winkler. Anyway. So it's going to ask you for the date. It's going to ask you for the duration and a location. And then all the way down, you can check the box if you would like us to omit the exact address from the public report. That's probably a good idea. You kind of give general. You don't want to come home one night after you saw a UFO and you gave out your address and there's people camping in it, thinking you're some kind of guru. Well, if they give you money, and they think you're a guru. No, I'm kidding. But yes, I saw a UFO. $5. Lay it on me. Everybody. Hand out that's actually, I've had some fundamentalist Christians refer to UFOs as a religion, not a area of interest. That's a bit of a stretch. And I think meant to be catty and mean. I don't think the guy that said that to me wasn't very nice anyway. So, anyway, now here you go. Viewed from, that's significant. Most is probably going to be land, but you might have been in an airplane or on a boat when you saw it. I don't see trains there, so that must also mean land. Location details. You know, you want to subscribe that. What did you see? This is what I really like, because shape of craft, he has a drop-down list, so you don't even have to think about it. Cigar. Wow, we're going to fly around in a cigar. How you doing? Really, though, for the longest time, I always thought cigar-shaped just meant disc on its side, until I've seen some footage that, wow, that looks like the fuselage of an aircraft without any wings or control surfaces or a vertical stabilizer at all. It's just literally like a big cigar with, you know, maybe some lights on it or something. That we've heard those reports. All sorts of different, you know, even fireball, which technically what this video is here, I would probably call those fireballs to changing, maybe. You know, that's another thing you could put, changing, because they do. I saw one once that seemed to be pulsing, and then when it turned, it was coming at us, and then it seemed to change direction, and when it changed direction, it was definitely metallic because you could see the sun glint off of it. And you know the way when you see the sun glint off of polished aluminum or something like that, chrome, how there's a taper off, whereas it's tapering, that chrome is reflecting the surroundings. Well, you could see there was definitely something there, and then and after that, it went back into that morphing. You could tell it frustrates the hell out of me, not knowing what the hell I've seen. A little background too. Perhaps one of the reasons it frustrates me is, as a Marine, I was lucky enough to serve with a unit called 2nd Anglico, Air Naval Gunfire Liaison Company. So we would get deck of cards with all the NATO and all the Warsaw Pact aircraft on them to learn to identify them. Of course, after you're around F-18s and Harriers and whatnot, as long as I was, you know, learning to call in fire, you will begin to just know what they are by your ears. You could hear them and you know what that what that sound is. Okay. Sighting details. Okay, here's where you talk about the details. Tells you don't even put your name. Don't put names in this part. That's for later. Angle of elevation. This is interesting. That's new. All this is new since the last time I reported. It's much more advanced now. Direction from viewer. If the object was moving. Estimated distance. Estimated size. Estimated speed. Characteristics, check all that apply. Object landed, object made a sound, object left a trail, like we just saw. Object moved, object changed direction. It's really making it easy to report a UFO. Why didn't you report your UFO, guy? Why'd you just upload it to TikTok and compete with some girl shaking her jigglies for the camera? All right, let's put it this way. The OnlyFans girl on TikTok doesn't matter. This does. report your sighting. It's a really nice resource. Doesn't cost you a dime. And again, if you're worried about it, again, there's over 170,000 reported sightings on this. And according to Richard Dolan, I think, or maybe it was Stanton Friedman that said it, but for every one sighting somebody admits to, there's 9 other people that won't admit it. So take 170 times 9 times 10, and that's probably a lot more accurate. And then, you can upload a image or videos, and then they want your contact info. Now, when I did this, I didn't realize this, but a MUFON guy contacted me and investigated the sighting. And that would be the Mutual UFO Network. They've had some problems. Their last director was busted with child porn. And I think the new director is, I'm not so sure, but MUFON definitely has people in it that have Hollywood agents, essentially. And they get on those Discovery Channel shows as MUFON investigators, experts, all this. Maybe Bill Burns, I think, might have been a MUFON investigator. But is what the guy that investigated my UFO told me. And the guy, and he also appeared in my documentary, my mini doc about UFOs. He said that MUFON investigators will sit on reports, like they become MUFON investigators for the title, and they get a bunch of reports and they don't share them all, and they keep them and write books on it, and or also get on TV on one of those Discovery Channels shows about whatever UFOs that are completely unsatisfying by the way they're edited, by the way. I don't know if we do have a Discovery exec in the audience, for the love of God, stop doing this when we come back. And then when you do come back, you show the last 4 minutes of what we just saw, like we're idiots, and then like one new thing for like maybe a minute. Stop doing that. No one likes it. It's not clever. If you don't have enough content to tell a whole story, a big, long 45, 48, 52-minute story, whatever, or whatever your segment length is, show more, break it up more. Okay? I stopped watching, well, I pulled my cable years ago, but still, if I wanted to get it online, I could still watch those shows, but they're just unwatchable. It's ridiculous. When we come back, and then they'll always, ask some kind of, they'll give you a little preview. I didn't know what I was looking at. And then they'll come and they'll show you something out of context. And the guy was looking at like some Italian car that he didn't know what it was or something. I don't know if it's really that bad. Anyway, clearly those shows annoy me. All right. Now this is on this part, the data bank, 298 new reports posted, as of March 13th, 2024. And well, let's click on one and see what it says. Okay. 1 hour, number of observers, 2 pilots over Beckley, West Virginia, USA. This is where we first saw it, but it was visible until Pittsburgh. So basically this thing followed him. It's an orb. It was white, viewed from an aircraft. Direction from viewer. He put it in degrees, so you know he's a pilot. 330 degrees. And I don't know enough about aviation to tell you what direction that is. Angle of elevation, 10. So it was a little above him then. So that would be flat. Okay. 5, 10, 15, 20. Uh-oh. Someone might repurpose that video and try to say I'm a Hitler or a Nazi, showing you the different elevations. Oops. I always thought Hitler would make a great used car salesman if he wasn't a mass murdering shithead. Buy your car here. Everywhere else is too high. I'm sorry, but couldn't help it. So here we go. Here's the description. And this is what you should be doing if you've videoed a UFO, or even if you see one. We'll get into the gallery and we'll talk about that. So my captain and I saw moving stars, look kind of like satellites. First off, this is apparently a very common sighting among pilots at my airline, and I am new, and this was my first time seeing it. Interesting that he's in an airline, because from what I understand, pilots are discouraged from talking about it. Last night we were flying from Florida to New York, and we were at 33,000 feet and over Beckley Airport, West Virginia. My captain pointed out to me the thing 4 other captains had mentioned previously. This was my first time seeing it. On about a 320 bearing from our present position, he pointed out a star and told me to watch it. Oh, to watch. It stayed completely unchanged for about 10 seconds and suddenly disappeared instantaneously when it reappeared about 2 inches to the right of my perspective, but dimmer. Okay, so I mean, it goes on and talks about it, and he has some video. I don't even know if you could see that. Wow. I don't know. I'm not really seeing nothing. To me, that's just black, and there's some instruments. Maybe. That's one of those sightings that it's like the pictures of UFOs that I took in the 90s that just turned out to be squiggly lines when I got them developed. It's like, okay, well, look, I saw spaghetti. Now, here's another part of the National UFO Reporting Center. As you can see, international on this map, and you can zoom into this and move around and see different places. So let's go over to Fork Lake, and what do you know? Quitman's got a sighting. Sighting on 2014-07-12. What did someone see? Okay, 1 minute. Quitman, Texas, changing. Like the video that we just saw. Lights on object emitted other objects. Oh, marks found on body afterwards. That's not nice. East Texas, 2014, July. Sighting 1 into 2. I don't really know what that means. Driving home from Winnsboro to Quitman at 9:15 p.m. on Saturday, July 12th, I noticed a different kind of light in the eastern sky. The light resembled these new type of car headlights, HID or LED lights. It hovered for a few seconds and moved west in extremely fast speed, not capable of anything humans have. When it was passing in front of me, it split into 2 of these. As I watched it fly by, it suddenly disappeared. With Facebook, I passed along what I saw on my way home. I had 20 plus people. Oh, he posted his sighting to Facebook. I had 20 plus people comment on it from Austin, which is 250 miles southwest of here, and others from Louisiana, which is 250 miles east of here. There is longer footage of this sighting being circulated, and there's no footage at all. So for the love of God, if you have footage and you go through the trouble to upload it to the National UFO Reporting Center site, upload the video. Okay, but that's a really nice tool to have. And you could see, and it also shows you who's reporting the UFOs. Bunch in Hawaii, Japan, Philippines, India, Australia. What's going on, Papua New Guinea? Ah, there is one. Look at that. In 99. So, yeah, well, wow, even China. Russia, of course. And, wow, even Africa. Wow. Johannesburg. What about, yeah. Some people think that's where they're based. But clearly, the United States has a preponderance of them, and it looks like the East Coast is your most densely UFO'd area. So the next page they have is the gallery. Now the gallery, oh, I'm so sorry. What is this? That's the gallery. Okay. What was this again? This was this reports? Oh, this was reports by location. With reports by location, you can go state by state and maybe find something. Like if you see something and want to corroborate it before you upload, you could say, oh yeah, like on, 0201, 2024 near Waverly, we saw a sphere, and then you look here and say, oh yeah, somebody else did too. And it was reflective. We get the reflective spheres down here, or at least used to all the time. Not sure now. So that's how you use that tool on the National UFO Reporting Center. There's Florida, Georgia, Guam, Hawaii, just all of it, British Columbia, different countries, Argentina, whatnot, Australia. So there's that. And then now the gallery is, in the old scientific method, if you were a scientist, especially a naturalist, you probably needed to know how to draw, because those science books were illustrated because they had no cameras. So when skeptics say that, oh, that's not proof, that's someone drawing a picture. Well, if you understand the way science was before cameras, then this is valid. And then even here, someone's using a digital method who claimed there was a opening hole, porthole in the fabric of space. Maybe. I don't know. I've heard of that happening in Gulf Breeze out on the Naval Oaks National Wildlife Refuge. Some kids told their teacher that they saw a porthole, and I was in college with that teacher, and she saw me researching this stuff. This is back in the 90s. Or it could just be, a drawing. Milton, Florida. How ironic. Close by. And this guy saw something in it looks like a cornfield or sugarcane. We have a lot of sugarcane here. So there again, another little lesson for you to understand. If you do see something, even if you're unable to pull your phone out fast enough and get a picture, you can attempt to draw something, which will be fine. This is a still valid form of documenting a sighting, especially if you're a pretty good digital artist who could do something like this. That's appreciated. That's valid. That's valid. So, again, talks about what not to show. I don't know why I pulled that up. And then here's the About Us. And there's the man with the plan right there, Peter Davenport. And he's been the director of the National UFO Reporting Center since 1994. Does it essentially by himself. He doesn't have a webmaster, but maybe if you have time to volunteer to help him, reach out. His email's in there, and maybe that's something you could help, get done. Go ahead and just tell you a little bit about some of the sightings I've had that match this. Definitely have seen the orange, rose-colored type lights. And the one that this reminds me of that I saw was one night I was working part-time delivering pizza. I was still in college, married even. And I was in the neighborhood called Tiger Point, which is south of Gulf Breeze proper. And the Naval Oaks National Wildlife Refuge separate Gulf Breeze proper to like the Tiger Point area. In fact, Tiger Point's a little further down, but it's still considered Gulf Breeze. And I went into this cul-de-sac where the address of the house was, where I was going to deliver this pizza, and everybody was outside of their house. Everyone was all looking up. So I get out with the pizza and I walk up to this guy and I go, "What's everyone looking at?" And he goes, "Look." And there was a very, when I say, if I would have held up a large softball at arm's length, that's about how big this was in the sky, which is a pretty big thing to see in the sky. And it was a glowing rose-colored type of light with, again, that quality of that light seemed as if it was coming from underwater. There was, I don't know how to describe it other than that. There's a neon fluidic glow to it that's just unique. And then without any, no way you could predict this. It was this big circle, and then it went 2, 4, 8, 16, 30, broke down into this thousands of little tiny little things all flying around now, and then it reformed. And immediately I thought, like, oh, something's trying to communicate. That's fractals. They're showing us. Don't know what that was. Very strange. And then, like clockwork, the very next weekend, there's a C-130 flying over Tiger Point, and they're towing a cable with an amber-colored flare at the end that intermittently is dropping sparks or whatever it was doing, going through stages. And I just thought, like, wow, that's clever. That's a form of visual debunking. They're trying to make us second guess what we saw. And there's nothing like that super glowy underwater seemingly glow. Maybe that's an interdimensional glow. Maybe that's what's going on. Also, I had people from that base, from Eglin, tell me they've seen those amber rose-colored lights in the woods when they were out there. And if you've ever looked on a map how big Eglin is, it takes up a pretty massive amount of the panhandle of Florida. It's where the Air Force tests weapons. So there's a lot of secret programs going on there, which makes you kind of understand why maybe the military gets paranoid about the subject, because, here we are testing weapons to protect our country, and we got something, we have no idea what it is, checking us out. That's not secure. I mean, in the big picture, I'm sure it's okay, because it's probably not, the Chinese or the Russians or anything that have that technology. It's probably either some sort of, one of the things I mentioned earlier. I'm not going over that list again. But definitely something that you want to do. If you do see something, please reach out to the NUFORC, National UFO Reporting Center, NUFORC.org, and file your report. Anyway, that is our show today. I am Minx Labrada. This is our mysterious world. Thank you very much for your time. I am Minx Labrada. Thanks for your time.